Alrighty, I'm going to get started even though we're missing a person, and she'll just have to walk in if she arrives. So yeah, so if you guys go into a course that you have real grades in and real students, and just be careful, of course, not to make any permanent changes to anything, then I'll show you how you can turn on the gradebook and see what's going on with some of the new features.
And when will these new features take place? January? Is that what I just?
Thanks for that segue, Sherry. No, that's a good question. That was my first point. January 18th, 2020. So as of that date, the old gradebook goes away forever. January 18th. So when does the semester start? Like 20 something?
The day after.
Yeah, it's a Saturday. The 18th is a Saturday. So.
Oh, okay, so actually then it would be the 21st.
Like the
20th will be a day off for Martin Luther King.
Right. Oh, is it? I didn't know. Okay. So that basically, when you start the semester next, then you're going to be using this new gradebook. All right. So if you don't already have it turned on, if you go to Settings and Feature Options, there's something that says New Gradebook. What I would suggest you do is just turn it on now. That way you can see all the stuff I'm showing you up here, and you're used to it by the time next year comes around. Feels really weird to say next year, but there you go.
There it is. Okay.
Everyone find that?
Yep.
And just so you know, I am keeping an eye on the chat. So if I say something and you're not seeing what I'm seeing, or you don't think you have questions, I will try to keep an eye on both things at the same time.
Okay.
Also with chat, if I don't catch it right away, I'll get back to you. So. Did you find it, Julie?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, cool. All righty. So the only things that appear in the gradebook are graded assignments. So if you have ungraded surveys or assignments where you've chosen them as not graded, because then when the assignments choices, the drop down those one that says not graded, those will not appear in your gradebook. They also have to be published to show up in your gradebook.
Okay, well, I have some that are showing up that say unpublished.
So you can see them. They can't see them.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. I was gonna say I can see mine too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Previously, the students would, you wouldn't even see the ungraded stuff in your gradebook. Now it pops up and it says ungraded on it.
Okay.
Unpublished rather, so that you can see that you have forgotten to publish this assignment. That's one of the new things with this new gradebook.
Okay.
Okay, but can I just ask something?
Ask away.
So I have assignments, right? And then from the assignments, I make my modules. And sometimes I'm not going to use that assignment anymore for this class. So I unpublish it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like that showing up here. You know, I don't like to see things that I don't need to see. But so is there any way, because it looks like everything that's in my assignments and not just my modules now shows up.
Yeah, but yeah,
And
there's no way to change it.
Dang.
January 18th, this is what's happening. So there you go. It'll say manual, either manual or unpublished there, but the assignment will still be in your gradebook. However, you can filter. You can filter by groups. And I thought, am I wrong? You can filter by modules. So do you only see pieces of the assignments that you want to see?
Oh, so hold on, let's see. No, it's still there, unpublished.
You can also view by certain filters and certain statuses. So if you mark your assignments late or missing or dropped or excused, if you use any of those features, you can filter that way. So there's more information in the gradebook, but there's more filtering options in the gradebook.
I love the excused.
Yes.
That's new.
So there's some of your, let's talk about filters a second.
Yes.
Assignment groups, modules, student groups. If you do student groups in your class, group assignments, group projects, you can just look at the one group and grade their stuff. You can arrange them by points, by due date, by module, first to last. You can move them around. You can actually physically drag things around, or at least I thought you could. There it goes. You can actually physically move things in the grade book itself.
Whoa. Ooh.
So that's a new thing you can do that you could not do before.
Awesome.
And for those of you who like to merge classes together, you can use this to have sections.
I don't understand what that means.
So sometimes especially in English or nursing, they'll take section 004 and section 005 and they'll stick them together. So now I can look at my grades for the 004 group and the 005 group. So that they're basically teaching the same class, but have multiple sections of it. You can merge them together. It's called cross-linking.
And why would you do that? Just
So
make
that
it
you
easier
don't
to
have
grade
to
it?
switch between shells when you're doing your grading. So, but sometimes it gets confusing as to, I only want to look at my Monday, Wednesday class and not my Tuesday, Thursday class. You can decide which section you want to do.
But it has to be the same class
Has to be the same class.
or course.
Well, it doesn't, but then that gets into a can of worms that I'm not even going to go touch right. That can of worms is all yours. All right, the other things that haven't changed is you can the still way of entering grades, you can still do this. You can still enter points directly, but this color coding kicks in, and this is what I want to show you who have late is blue, missing is pink, I'll call it pink, and excused is sort of a peachy color.
If you want to do that.
If you want to do that. And you can also leave comments within that as well. One thing I do want to reiterate is if you delete an assignment, it is deleted from the grade book. So when you go to the assignment tab and say delete and get rid of an assignment, it's gone. So it's better to unpublish it than to delete it. They're still going to see it. But the thing is, if you delete it, I can't always get it back. Sometimes it's in the test site, sometimes it's not. So if you delete it, the submissions are gone, the comments are gone, it's gone. So don't delete anything you don't mean to delete. All righty. Another new thing that comes up is they used to call this muting an assignment, but now they're calling it a grade posting policy instead. And so what you do is you go to the assignment specifically. Oh, I need to go to a different one that I haven't messed with. There we go. And I go to grade posting policy. I can choose it automatically, means whenever I grade it, the assignment grade appears in the book automatically, just like that. Or I can choose manually. This hides the grade. And the students will see a message that says something to the effect of your instructor is still grading this assignment and has not released the grade yet. So right now, what happens is it says manually. I hit save. This gives you a rundown about what you're doing. And I want it to show manually here. I have to refresh. This one says manual here. See that is? So that means that if I grade this, the students aren't going to see it until I release the grade.
And just out of curiosity, I know some people do this, but I never asked why. Why do you do that?
Because they want the grade to be seen when everybody turns it in. They don't want to release it as they're grading it. For whatever reason, they only want it to be seen after everyone in the class turns in an assignment.
Thank you.
I don't ask why, I just know how it works. If you guys have any comments about how you would use that, I mean, that's kind of, let me know what you do. So. And sometimes assignments are hidden. If you see this little eyeball here, this one is hidden. The grades are hidden from the students.
And again, why would you hide the grades?
Again, the same reason. Some students, some professors do not want their grades to be visible until everyone's turned something in. They usually do it with like high risk sort of time, your midterm, your final, that type of thing.
I am one of those sometimes that I don't like to have them posted right away because sometimes they take so long to grade, and I just want them all released at once. So it might take me 2 or 3 days to grade them, and I want the students being like, I got mine, you didn't get yours, kind of thing. That's it.
Right. All right, so if you see an eyeball or you see manual or any of those two things in your grades, that's going to be because you've chosen to hide that. So what you need to go in is go back to your grade posting policy and put that back to automatically, hit save, and then it'll have other grades will post up. This is a relatively new feature for me, so I'm not entirely sure of all the weird things that might happen in the future with it. So let me know what happens.
I love the excuse thing. I love it.
Okay. Sometimes you want to apply this hidden grade policy to every assignment in your gradebook. So there's a couple new policies you can apply globally to all your assignments. You can reach those by clicking on this little gear in the upper right. I'll get to late policy in a minute. I just want to show you, there's your grade posting policy, same wording. Remember, if you click this manually, that means that none of your grades will post until you manually release them. So think about what you're doing. The one that I have had people ask for is really cool, is late policies. So do any of my 3 students have late policies for their assignments? Lose points, lose percentage, things like that?
If there are some assignments I don't accept late, the ones that I do, it's 10% off per day.
Okay. So what you can do is automatically change this, instead of having their grade percentage for missing submissions, change it to 90%, 100 minus 10. So if it's missing after the due date, it's automatically 90% of what you would have assigned.
And can you have it go where it deducts more every day?
You can.
Oh.
That's the next section.
Ooh. Look at you, Stephanie.
So, 10% the first day, 10% the second day. Before you know it, you don't have any points at all.
Yeah.
But remember, this will apply globally. It's every assignment in your class. The math teachers like this one a lot.
Stephanie?
Yeah.
So, I can't exactly hear the other student there, but so if we just want to do one grade percentage for the missing submission, we do the top, but if we want it like 10% each day, then we do the bottom?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Again, this is a newer one, so
Yeah,
we'll see how it applies,
that'll be nice if it works out that way. Then I can
Right.
put my calculator away.
Yeah. I suspect the math people are probably going to do something crazy like you lose 2.3% every day or something. Math people do. And thanks for the reminder that you can't hear her, because I'll have to, no, that's me. Again, this is all global, and that's under that little gear. If you do this and then I hit update, it's going to apply to all of the past assignments as well. So your gradebook will radically change. So if you're doing this in a live gradebook, don't hit the save button. There's some sorting options as well. Under total, I can sort by grade or low to high. And one that's always been there is the move to end. If the total was at the end, it would say move to beginning. So you could put the total column at the front of your gradebook or the back of your gradebook. Which makes it a little bit easier for grading. That's an old one that's been there for a while, but I'm not sure everyone knows it's available. Mm-hmm.
Change my world. Somehow I have this notes thing here. Oh, that stays.
The notes one?
Yeah.
Well, the notes, on the notes, this is notes that you can see. This little notes column. The students do not see that notes column. That is for you only.
Everybody can't get rid of it.
I think, can you hide it?
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah. There's a way to turn it on and off, but I don't remember how to do that. Oh, there it is. There you go. So if you don't want this notes column there, go to view
Okay.
and take away the notes. As I said, though, the notes shows only to the instructor. It doesn't show to the student. All righty. I don't know, I can't show this with my particular grade book, but you may be able to see this with yours. It's new to Becky. Becky didn't know about that. I got a question. Can you still drop the lowest score in a category? You can. I don't remember how to do that, though. I think you have to do that within the assignment groups. Yeah. So if I go to my assignment groups and edit, it's still under there. That hasn't changed, although it visually looks a little bit different.
What? I have to go in there and do the whole. So like if I tell my students I dropped the lowest quiz score, one lowest quiz score, I
Right.
just go into my assignment groups.
Right. So say you have there's a group called quizzes right there. So say I want the lowest 2 quizzes gone. I can just say drop. You can also designate an assignment that does not ever get dropped.
Wow.
So midterm or some sort of high stakes one like that. Let me go back to the grade book here. Yeah, assignment, and then click on those little 3 dots on the top there, on the side there, and then edit. And that way you're editing group settings. Showing Sherry how to change the group settings for her assignments.
I'll be darned. Thank you so much.
All right. I spotted something I wanted to show you. Under view, you can go to unpublished assignments and list all the ones that you have unpublished. Remember, we're talking about certain people in this class don't like having the word unpublished show up on their grade book. Not naming names. But you can just show the ones that are unpublished, and that's a good check for your students to come back and say, hey, I can't see that assignment you just told me is due tomorrow. And there it is. Now mine's not showing here. I need a different grade book to show this example. You can display your grades as points or percentages. However, if you use weighted assignment groups, then it's going to be percentages. So I don't know if you guys use weighted percentage groups or you just have them all, or weighted assignment groups, or you just leave them all at the default, which is usually nothing, 0. Do you all know how to make weighted assignment groups?
No,
I do.
Okay.
I don't do it. I'm strictly a point girl.
Okay. All right, another common thing that people are using is importing grades or exporting grades. One way you can do is if you want to export your grades for the record, just so in case there's any appeals, or maybe you're keeping track of grades on assignments, you export them as a CSV file that you can keep somewhere else. This does not export the actual submissions, just the grade that you gave them, and it also doesn't export the comments that you made about them.
And do you recommend we do that? Because I mean, we can go back and access this. Like if someone said, hey, last fall, I want to talk about my grade, I can go back and get it. So why would I?
You can. The question was, do you recommend doing it? And it depends what you're using it for. I do know teachers who do it because they are literally keeping track of the scores on particular assignments to see if it's still a good evaluation tool.
Got it.
This may come into play if we ever decide to delete something from Canvas, which we haven't done yet. And of course, if we do, we're not gonna, do it without warning. We'll let you know. The other reason is that if you know that that we need to rebuild a course, and I don't know if you've ever gone through this, then I or you will export that grade book so that we can put it in the new build of the new course.
And why are some of the columns red? Like on yours and mine?
So these are missing assignments. This little peachy color is an excused assignment.
But they have grades in them.
They have grades in them, but that doesn't mean that I couldn't excuse it or I couldn't, or it was late. Maybe they turned it in late, but I still gave them 30 points, for instance.
Okay.
If it's excused and colored, then it just doesn't count towards the grade. So like this guy, it doesn't count towards the grade. All right, so let's go back to that. So under actions, I can import a grade book, I can export a grade book, or it'll show you any previous imports or exports that you did. I don't know how far back it goes. That's not too far away. It was like September, so.
Love it.
You may need to do that if it does get to an appeal process and you have to send it to a dean. Hey, can you send me your grade book? Something like that. Previously, that was in a completely different spot. So that's why I wanted to make sure you saw where the new location was for it. The other thing I want to mention is my screen, as you're seeing it up here, is kind of smushed. So usually actions is kind of in a row across here. So if your buttons are in different places, that would be why. So do you know how to add grades to your gradebook? This is still the same pretty much. You can type the number in there, or you can do speed grader, of course. Oops. A hint, if you are grading using the default graded book system, be sure you hit return or enter to go to the next column. Otherwise, it may not record the grade that you entered. Alrighty. And find an assignment that I can use Speed Grader for. Speed Grader is not much different than it was before. So if you've used it before, it's not going to be any different. I don't have a Speed Grader assignment in here. I thought I did.
You know, it would be nice on the speed grader if when you hit the arrow, if it automatically takes you to the next one instead of you having to clickety click click.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wish it did that too.
Come on, Stephanie, you can make it happen.
But it doesn't happen, I'm afraid.
Stephanie, for getting to speed grader, if you go down to that 16.2, or pick one of those grades, and then click that arrow, and then up in the right corner, oops, go back. Click that arrow to the right, and it's a speed grader up there.
Yeah.
No,
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It's kind of hidden.
Yeah. So if they don't have a submission, you get this message right here. And you can maneuver through them by clicking on their name. None of these people here have submissions. They didn't turn any of their homework in. Kind of that's how it goes. If you have a rubric, you'll see a button here that says rubric, and then your rubric will pop up on the side here, and you could just plug the numbers in and hit submit. with the rubric, there's two different buttons. There's one that says save and one that says submit. So be sure to hit save to save your rubric comments and submit to get your stuff into the gradebook.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
You probably do it automatically and don't think about it, but that's kind of how the rubrics work.
Speed grader.
I do have a course that uses a rubric.
Okay, speed grader. View rubric. So I have save and cancel.
Okay. Oh, you. Wrong course. There's a course where I have a really nice rubric set up. Just gotta find the right one. There it is. So here's my view rubric. I click on that. You can expand this. And then there's a save button. So say I put a grade in here and then I click comment and I say, great job. I hit save. That will save my rubric content.
Okay.
But until I hit submit, it will not put it into the gradebook.
Oh, because I thought the submit, that submit was for me to write comments and then they submit it.
Yeah, but it's also what I found is I've hit save here and then the grade doesn't show up in the grade book. So I'm finding that if I don't hit save and submit, my data doesn't always go. That might be just a bug that goes away later, but it's what I've been experiencing lately with gradebooks. All right, another useful thing is, have you ever wanted to send a message to students who are not turning in assignments?
Send a message, yes.
You can message students who, and then choose what they have or have not done. So, hey, you haven't submitted your assignment that was due last week, or you scored less than a 70. Would you like to retake it? Or scored more than, hey, great job. The student success folks are trying to find ways to motivate and reward the students who are succeeding and doing really, really well. So this is a great one to send something to your scored more than and say to all those folks who did 95% or better and say, hey, you did a really good job on this. So that's a great way to motivate your students.
Wow, that's cool. That's awesome.
So that's a fun, kind of a fun thing. I think it was there before, but not quite as easy to use, I think. Some of these things have been popping in unnoticed for a long time.
Send them
So
a message now.
yeah, there you go. So those are rubrics. All right, one last thing I want to show you is what's called treat ungraded as 0. What this does is it allows you to show that everything that they haven't turned in yet counts as a 0 towards the grade. So what happens is if you have 1,000 points and they've only turned in 100 worth of points, for instance, they're going to have 900 worth of zeros there, and their grade's going to look like a big D or an F.
And how did you get there?
So this is something you may not want to do unless you discuss with your students what their grades are going to look like. So I go to the grade book. Let me go back to the beginning so I can start from there. All right, so I'm at this grade book. It's sort of getting there, family, eventually. And I go to what is called individual view. Right now, this is called default view. And then I have some more settings. So that's what treat ungraded as 0. What happens was you do treat ungraded as 0 at the beginning of the semester, their grade looks really bad because everything else is a big fat 0. But towards the end, it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So hopefully by midterm or so, they see something. Some people think that it's a more accurate way of showing what their score is. It depends how you want to use it. I was talking to another instructor and she uses it by turning it on probably about 3 or 4 weeks before the end of the semester. Because then what happens is they look at that and they see how many of their assignments they haven't turned in yet. And then she gives them a chance to make up those points in some other way. But it's a bit of a shock to the students saying, hey, you know, you have some work due. Let's turn this on to see what your grade really is. Have you guys ever used that one before?
No, but I know instructors.
Yeah.
No, I've not.
And again, there's some sorting in here as well that wasn't there before. So you can sort by due date, sort by alphabet. So that's new sorting features. You can do some download stuff here as well as at other spots. So there's another spot for downloads. And if you want to grade anonymously, they like to call it, you can hide the student names. So you're just grading purely on what you're seeing and avoiding any sort of confirmation bias on your students. So again, I don't know anyone who's used it, but it's there. What questions do you have? I'm watching the chat too, so if you don't want to talk, you can chat.
I was messing around a little bit with the, oh, hang on, I gotta go back to it.
Yeah, if you want to get back to your default, go up to where it says individual view in the upper right here, and go back to gradebook.
Oh, okay.
And then you're back here again.
Okay, let me get back to that then.
It's kind of hidden the way back to the regular gradebook.
Yeah. No, it was, where did it go? Hang on. My computer's a little slow. Okay. Under gradebook, the gradebook history. Was this on our old one where you could click on that?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, because I was just checking that out. That's really interesting because you could do it by student. So say I'm having a meeting with a student and I want to go over their grades. That's kind of a nice, you can plug in the student and then filter only that student out.
Yep.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's you know, I think in October, I don't think that was quite so much there.
Okay.
But
I haven't seen it.
No, I know it's relatively recent.
Okay.
They've been sneaking a lot of new gradebook features in. So who's to say in January we won't even have a few more things, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's a good one. That could certainly be useful.
I'm looking at this, what she just said,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just curious because it doesn't, well, I'm trying to see if it shows me the final grade.
Can you scroll over or is that the...
Well, it's still going, so maybe it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We're trying to see if you can see the final grade.
I don't see it.
Oh, the final grade?
I don't think it
So
does.
it's just
No.
assignment, okay.
Yeah.
That though, hang on here. I just saw that. Where did it go?
Mine's still building here. Let me pick.
I think no. It's under gradebook and then individual view.
Yeah, but not on this screen apparently. So
Right,
this is,
right, okay.
No.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, because this is just a more
Yeah.
granular view of what your, of what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
me see, we talked about that. Learning mastery is a whole other class in itself. We talked about filters. We talked about arranging. Talked about searching. I haven't looked into the curve grades feature. It's a relatively new one. So if you guys curve grades at all, that might be something you're interested in. You
Where's
could,
that?
yeah, if you go to the individual assignment, you can curve grades on an individual assignment.
Say what?
Do you hear that?
That's Sherry.
That is. She's amazed. She's
Who's that?
she's here like, wow. Yeah. That's Becky.
Oh. That's awesome.
You got Becky and another Stephanie.
Yes.
But once you hit curved grade, then can you, well, I guess I'll just do it.
Once you curve it, you can't uncurve it.
Oh, okay. Well,
Oof.
Yeah, it's permanent.
awesome. Love it.
Let's see. Alrighty, I'm trying to clicking on all the things I'd say, make sure I find all the little hidden pieces. In building this, I'm like, well, it does this and this and this. There's a lot of features. Lots to choose from.
I love the excused. I love that the total column's right there.
Right, and it's color coded. What's nice is that your excused and all those other things are all color coded, so you can look at that and see which ones were late and which ones were excused and which ones were, you had that. I think the grade policy for just basically making everything 10% if it's late is going to make your lives a lot easier, because now you don't have to manually do that anymore.
I love that. Love it.
So before I mentioned, I was talking about assignments. If you do a plus assignment, oh
no.
see, points. If you do this, if you check the box that says do not count this assignment towards the final grade, I think it does not appear in the grade book, but I'm not sure. I haven't tested that theory yet.
Hang on. I think it does show it.
It didn't used to, but now with this new thing, it'll probably say ungraded on it, is what I'm thinking.
It gives a little checkbox because I have a couple skills where they just have to do it. They don't get a grade.
Yeah, so you got your complete, incomplete. Yep.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Because usually complete, incomplete is a checkbox. Did they or did they not? So
Yes, that's it.
yeah. And it used to be that things that says not graded would not appear in the grade book because they're not graded. I suspect with this new behavior, it may show and just say not graded or ungraded, something to that effect.
Okay.
So it was on my list of things to try and see what happens. But this will give you at least the lion's share of the changes that I know of, so that when the next semester comes, you'll know why your grade book's all in pretty colors.
Stephanie, what's that below your submission type there? External tool options?
This is if you're using publisher material. So if I'm using, let's see, for instance, I don't know if it'll pop up here. No.
Isn't that where the Turnitin is going to be?
Yeah, Turnitin will be there.
Okay.
And the couple things we're working on putting in there, Panopto video. It may not be Panopto, but we're looking for a video tool.
Okay.
That'll pop up there. Quizlet, if you use that, that's a really fun one actually. And then Turnitin, which is a plagiarism checker.
Okay, so they would go through that to turn in their assignment. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Which is actually active right now. If you're interested in learning more about that, let me or Holly know. We can.
Yeah, I am. I just wasn't able to make the other trainings that you guys had. So
Right.
I definitely will connect with you guys on that one.
Yeah, but it's in there, so you can use it for an assignment. I guess this late in the semester, probably not, right? But
Right.
next semester, you might want to try it
I'll
and
definitely use
let
it.
us know. Yeah, Sherry says
Sounds
she's
good.
definitely going to use it. So
Yeah, I definitely want to try it out for a class or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
one thing I found useful is whatever you do here,
Mhm.
click that launch in a new tab, especially with publisher stuff. I find if
Okay.
you don't put the material from the publisher in a new tab, sometimes Canvas just hangs up and the students are stuck.
Okay.
What
I
other
don't,
questions? Yep,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
don't think I have any more questions for me about the grade book. Seems pretty intuitive, hopefully.
Yeah, it's pretty intuitive. It's just they've hidden some things. They're in different spots.
Okay.
And there's a lot more filtering options that weren't there before.
Okay.
The last page of the handout I sent you has some links to overviews of the grade posting policy, which is fairly complicated and long-winded to explain, but it's rather than me explaining it to you here, just read it.
Yeah, but is it whose policy is it, the colleges?
No, what that is your policy. Remember I was talking about you can have assignments which are
Oh, okay.
Manually posted grades or automatically posted grades and automatically deducted points, that kind of stuff is what Canvas is calling their grade posting policy. They've now got it under one umbrella. And then there's something there about, the new gradebook overview is sort of a 2-pager, which has a pretty good overview of all the major things. And then the late policies talks into more detail about the behavior in the gradebook if you're applying those late percentages, with some actual really good examples. So that's a lot of really good material if you can't get a hold of us and have questions.
Sounds good.
Hey, Stephanie, what's your actual last name? Because I have 2 last names for you.
I'm seeing if I can unmute it. My actual last name is Bonk, B-O-N-K, but I changed it throughout the semester, so they have some things as Hovik and some as Bonk.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Because I have you on my sign-in sheet as Bonk, and so I was confused.
Yeah, the class I actually teach, they have under Hovik, but I got married in June, so I changed it this semester. I'm adjunct, so I'm only there 1 day a week.
Oh, okay, gotcha. What do you teach?
I'm in the OTA program as well.
Oh, okay. I would like to know the other Stephanies around.
Yeah, I kept getting confused because initially I didn't know your name was Stephanie, and I thought I was being summoned for the questions.
Oh. All right, unless anyone has any questions about gradebook or, hey, anything else you just thought of while you're sitting here, because we have time. Open the
I
floor.
love it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, this is great. Thank you, Stephanie.
I'm good too, thank you.
Okay.
All right. And let's do more of these Zooms. I love it.
The Zoom is good.
Yes, it's great. It's great. So.
I was joking with Pete that if we have a class where we only have Zoom attendees, that I'm just going to sit in my office.
Absolutely.
Because I'm in a classroom right now because I have a person in front of me. But if I don't, I'm just sitting in my office.
Absolutely. I agree
You
too.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
mean, you guys don't know, so there you go.
Exactly. So, all right. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good evening.